Okay, Bava Kama, Yerushalmi, Daf Chaf. We'll just do a quick review of the Mishnah. Banken de la Geperik and Daf Yitesma Beis. Shosh Nekach Saparunim Tovra Betzi Yida Vena Du Eventually Nacha Yalda. If it was when it was gored, right? Eventually Nacha Yalda Mzav. Before it was gored, it was born, and or Mishnacha Yalda, and it was a result of the Negicha. And now it's dead. Misham Chatzinezik Para or reveal of Vlad, because the Vlad is a suffix. We don't know if that was the direct cause of the Negicha. V'chein Para. How about vice versa? V'chein Para Shnachas Hashor. V'nimtza Vlad the Betzita. Now the question is, was this Vlad complicit in the Negicha? Or the Para Beni Du Imat Shaloi Nacha Yalda, in which case it was complicit. Or Micha Nacha Yalda. I'm sorry, Shaloi Nacha Yalda. It was if it was born before the Negicha took place, so it was not complicit. Mishadach Yolda, so then it was complicit, the Vlad, and Mishal Chatzinezik when Apara, Yono Pei Chatzinezik, Reviyim and Vlad. And Revi the Nezik, in other words, half of a half, because it's a suffix, you only play half of the Chatzinezik, which is Revi. Zok Gemara, Shosh Negus Hapara, V'chi Kol Haparis Mepilois. Nalach ben Acharoiv, V'amor machmas negicha pila, right? Normally a par doesn't have an aphel. So obviously you see the par was a victim of a negicha, and there's an over betzita that's dead. Why don't we say, let's go basa the Rav, Rav Shvarim don't give birth, or paras don't give birth to Nephalim, and therefore must be happen because of the negicha. This means, Shloi hilchum midas adin, b'mamoin, acharoiv ella b'miyat. We only go, we don't go, basa the roiv in terms of mamin, and we take into account the meat, and therefore it's half, and if it's a tam, it's half of the half a nezik, right? So quarter nezik. Okay, I'm going to be Yosef Makamacha Hilchul Midas Hadin. I have actually a case where they do go b'midas hadin b'mamin acha roiv, where we do go basa the roiv, and this is a famous case. I don't funny Ravacha gamal oiche benek malim. If you have a gamal that's in heat. Beneg malam, and they get very wild. Nacher is because they go back to back. V'nimtza sham echod meis, and there's another gamal that's dead. Chayiv. So the owner of the gamal that was oichet, that was in heat, chayiv. Why bidush hazeh hargai? Because you know for sure while the gemalim are in heat, they go crazy. So therefore, for sure, this camel that was in heat killed it. So you see, you go basa the rive. That's the case we go basa the rive. If we go back to the Mishnah, we're talking about a case Kinumas Mishalim Chati Nezik Min Aparo Ubal Avlodos Oilo Lebal Haporo Revia. Now, what's happening over here is the Chati Nezek. So, like we said, we're talking about a case of the para, right? That was the Shenochas Ashar. So, we're talking about the second case of the Mishnah, right, the Sefer. So the par is noigich to shor. So how does the victim here, the owner of the shore, get compensated? So Rabbi Yana says, "Kinim sin misham chatzi nezik min ha'para." Is the para, the balapar pays chatzi nezik, uval havlodos, and the balavlodis oilu lebal ha'para via, and the balavlodis who is mechuv to pay a quarter, he compensates the bal ha'para a quarter. Fine. I'm Rabbi Yossi. Ze noisein mechza. No. Zem noisen mechza. Ze noisen mechza. Rabbi Yossi says no. Rabbi Yossi says that the that each one gives half of the half to the Baal to the Baal to the Baal Hashar. So it's not that the Baal Apara pays the Baal Hashar directly. It's they each contribute half. Ma mafka maybe. At the end of the day, the nizik, the victim, is getting his half. So what's the difference? Who had it pay? So the difference is mesu avlados. If the vlados are dead, so madam mishan chati nezik leparo vi nezik levlad. So ahein yoav niske, vahein yoav niske. So if the vlad died, so if you hold that Look at the Gersa is a little wrong over here. The Gersa really should be Mandama Misham Chati Nezek Mi Para or Vi Nezek Mi Vlad, not Le, because it's the other way around. We're talking about the Sefer over here. So Ahen Yoev Nizke, Ahen Yoev Nizke. So the right. So the what would happen is that the Gemara is saying is that Ahen Yoev Nizke, Ahen Yoev Nizke. So the Baal Hapara would end up over here, right? So the Nizik would end up losing out because what happens over here is obviously the Valpara, no problem, he can pay, but the Vlad's not here anymore. Where's he getting his chelik, his Ravi Nezik from the Vlad? Too bad, Vahinian Nezik, here's your Nezik, and obviously there's nothing here because the Vlad is gone. Man the man misham chati Nezik min apara. Uval havlodas oilul balapara, but according to the first shita, where we say that the balapara pays all the damage to the balashor, and then he gets compensated for the balavlodas, right? In that case, so it would work like this: Man, misham chatzin is minapara balavlodas oilul balapara revia hein revia ahen yov niske. V'heinoma loy l'dein bois ideal kumach. Right, so the obviously like we said, so the Bala Para has to pay the Bala Ashar his half. Now the Bala Havlodis, the Bala Havlodis would say, no problem. I owe you a quarter, right? I have to compensate you as the Balapar of the quarter from the Vlad. Here you go. Ideally, kumech, here's the Vlad in front of you, and no problem. You can collect from the Vlad. Obviously, he's dead, not much to collect from. But the point is that the Balashar would not lose out any money according to the Shita. Fine. Now we said the Mishnah v'chein parish enoches hashor. Right, the case we were just discussing. Rabban Bakana boy kumer rabimi pnei shu suffik because it's a suffix. Ha'ilo vadai. So, right, ha'ilu vadai, zenos mechza, v'zenos mechza. So he says, right, we said it's a suffix. So because it's a suffix, whether the Vlad was complicit in, right, if it was born after the Negicha or before Negicha. It was born after the Negicha, then it was complicit in the Negicha, and pays a quarter, right, to Ravi Nezek. But that's right, but that would only, but it's only because it's a suffix. We're not sure. In other words, let's say we know for sure the Vlad was born only after the Negicha, right? So then, are we going to say Zenoi Semerza V'Zenoi Semerza? Kachani Yomer Raglo Shel Adam, right? So they each pay half. In other words, maybe there should be prorated, right? There's the Vlad makes up a small percentage of the actual power. So why do they each pay half? The Vlad what may have been complicit, but a lot less complicit. Right, so kachani yohim is like the Gemara. Raglo shel odom. We'll go with the full over here, right? Kachani yohim raglo shel paro shel odom echad. V'kulo paro shel odom echad. Right. So if I have, let's say, the foot of the paro belongs to one person, and the rest of the paro belongs to another person, zenos mechza v'zenos mechza. Right? Doesn't really make much sense. Like we said, it should be prorated. So Amalei b'muad he masnita. It's talking about a case of a muad. And since it's a case of a muad is mishalom and ali. In other words, you don't pay from the guf of the para like you would by a tam, and therefore it's not necessarily it's not prorated. Right. So I should say it's not prohibited at all. In other words, when it's by the tam, so the tam, you're saying you only it's mishtalami gufa. So we see how much of the guf belongs to you, how much of the guf belongs to the other person, and we prorate it. But since by the muad, it's not mishtalami gufa, so therefore we don't prorate it. Right. Sagt, sagt die Gemara, so we said that Raglo mechurlecha machachet. If a guy says, "I'm selling you a foot of my animal," he's selling you really half the animal because we said it's a ava that the animal needs to live, and therefore he meant to sell one half of the animal. Raglo shni mechurlecha. If he says, "I'm selling a second animal," he means to sell machachetzi chetzi. I'm selling you half of what I have left in the animal. So that would and that's the way we would apportion any of the nezik over here. So in other words, what the person who bought half and the other, and then he bought the half of the other half, he would pay three parts, and the other person would pay one part of any damage that was done. Amar Shlakish, Kolin Shmuasa, the Levian, and all these Shmuas, everything we just quoted now, these are this is Levian. According to the Moshe, we don't pass him like this. Okay, Zok Delig Mishnah Kada. A pattern. He parks his pots in a chutz, somebody else's chutz without permission. Shavrosim b'hem to shabalabais potter. So if the animal belonging to the balabais breaks these pots, potter, obviously the balabais is pot. They got no permission to beat in the first place. But let's say the owner of the chutzner, his animals damaged by these pots, so then balak there is chayv. He's chayv to pay. But if he brought it in rishus, the balachotzer in that case would be chayiv. And we'll discuss that in the next coming Mishnahs. Hakadosh shenir kedei rois of the Gemara hichnas kedei rois of the chotzer balabais. Shaloi b'rishus. Let's say he puts it right. We said in the Mishnah he puts in his pots without permission into the chotzer balabais. Uvosho mimokamacha and a shar from some other not belonging to the balabais. Some other shar comes b'shavron and he breaks in pata. He's pata. Because the reason that shar is pata is because they're both in an area where they had no right to be. So therefore, they're both guilty, and since they're both guilty, the show is potter. Huzik behen again potter for the same reason. So what do we see from here? Karen, which this is a tolda of Karen, as we're assuming, is in a case of a chatzah that doesn't belong to either one of them, is potter. Zogt Eli Mishnah, Halacha Gimel, Hichnes Peras Ulachatz Balabayis Shloi B'Rishus. He puts his Paris in the Chatz Balabayis without permission. Achlas and Bem Tush Balabayis Potter. Im Huska Behem Bala Pei. But then, if in Huska Ben, if the Bala Habayis's animals damaged by his Paris, if it slipped, as opposed to if it ate them, then he would be chayiv. It should the owner's animal shouldn't have eaten them. But Bala Paris chayiv. Im Hichnes B'Rishus. But if he can't permission again, Balachotz chayiv. Hichnes peras luchotz balabayis again. So similar Gemara. Hichnes peras luchotz balabayis shloi b'rishus b'osho malkamach v'achlam pata. Huzik ben pata. Adamre shashem petur b'chatz shen shlein. In this case, shen is pata. If it's a chatz, it doesn't belong to either one of them. Zok te'eli mishnah lachadal. Hichnes shor luchotz balabayis shloi b'rishus. So he brings his shor into a chatzah balabais without permission. Nachrei shor balabais, and the shor balabais gores his shor. Or shenashchoi kalba balabais, or the dog belonging to the balabais bites the shor pata. Nagachulu shor balabais chayv. And again, if the shor that's there without permission gores the shor the balabais chayv. Nafalabar, if let's say this shor is there without permission falls into the water cistern belonging to this balabais, vehivishas maybe ruins the water chayv. If let's say this animal, this shor that's there without permission, falls into the pit and happens to be this guy's father or his son, the Bala Bais' son, or father was there, Mishamas HaKaifa, he has to pay the Kaifa. And this, according to Rafulda, based on the Bavli, is that this Rabbi Yossi Gluli is that a tam Mishal Chatzi Kaifa. And this Tana holds, the Tana of the Mishnah holds like Reb Tarfon that says that Keren b'chotza and Nizik, Nezik Sholem Mishalem. And since he pays Nezik Sholem, he also pays Kaifer. Ve'im hichnes b'shus balachotza, then Chayiv. And if he had permission to be there, then he is, then he's Chayiv. If the balachotza, it would be Chayiv. Rabbi Yom Bekula, no. Actually, Kablo balabais lishmar. The only time the balabais is chayiv, just by letting you in, it tells you come in, doesn't mean come in and I'll take responsibility. It means just come in, you're on your own. Also ich sagt Rabbi, fine. Sagt die Gemara, Hichne shel lechatze balabayis, Hichne shel lechatze balabayis, bershus v'garis. If a person brings in a shar to a chatze balabayis with permission, uvo shor memokem achen, a shar, some other shar comes, or nogach, nogaf, noshach, rovatz, boat, mishal nezik sholem, divrei bnei. Rebbe holds you pay nezik sholem, and the reason for that is because in the Chatzar Nizik, Rabbi holds that Keren B'Shus HaNizik pays Nezik Shalem, and in this case, since you were their permission, it's considered to be Chatzar Nizik. Chachamim say no. Al Hashem Al Regel Chayiv. There they agree. Al Shen Regel Chayiv. Al Negicha, Negifa, Neshicha, Al Avitza, Al Avitza, Al Choyin, Tam Mishal Chatzi Nezik, Mu Mishal Nezik Shalem, and Aliyah. It has the same din as a Rishus Harabim, if you do with permission. Rabbi Yehuda b'Shem Shmuel halacha Rebbe. Rebbe, the last sheet in the Mishnah, where he says b'kulon shekabel alav bal bayis lishma, the halacha is like Rebbe. Reb Zero also halacha Rebbe. Am Rebbe Yirmi Akol Moed Mebayis Shu Amaloi Hikonos Vani Misham Roi. So Rabbi Yirmi clarifies over here. It depends what the situation is. What are we talking about? In the bayis, if the owner says, "Come on in," he means to say, "Come in," and I'll be showing. I'm taking responsibility because a person's not expected. If I'm putting something into your house, how do you expect me to watch it? You're in the house, you'll watch it. Akoma the Messiah agrees in the field. At that bring it in, but it's your responsibility. I'm not going to watch it because then it's more of a public area. Ma pligin wisdom what din does a chotzer have? Rabbi Amikotzer Kisadeh, and you have to be mekabel achrayis. Knows Baal Achotz would have to be mekabel achrayis. Chom Remi no chotz is kibayis, and it's considered and by saying when I tell you come in, I'm taking achrayis. Zok the Gemara Tam Tanina we learned over there Hamagdish b'toich sadach haber shlo b'rishus. The main nakuda here is the sefer, which we'll quote from the Marafolda, right? So someone who puts a heap of of uh, grain Shaloi B'Rishus, and V'siyim, I'm just going to read it from our folder. V'siyim is safe V'im Higdish B'Rishus. So let's say he goes, so further, the Reish is talking about Shaloi B'Rishus. What about if it's there B'Rishus? So Balasod Chayiv. Balasod is Chayiv. V'kashele. Harei B'Sod Akol Moed Mechniso Achnisu V'Shemreyu Amalei. Didn't we just say in the Sada we said everybody agrees that when I say bring it in, I'm not taking a chay. So why over here are we saying the balasad is chayv if it's him if it's higdish b'rishos balasad is chayv? Why are we saying that? So Rabbi Yitzchak Gedishim Besada has a din of kikelim bebayis. So that the Gedishim Asad is the same din as Kalim and Abayis, and the Baal Asad in this case is Mekabel Achrayis. Why? So Rabbi Yisrael Rabbi Bun Tipat to be he is the masker, where there's a lock. So since there's a lock in the Chatzar, so I assume that you're going to protect it. The Baal Chatzar is going to protect it, because how am I supposed to get in and out? And therefore, the Baal Chatzar is Chayiv.